Welcome, fellow modelers. Welcome back to the channel. I'm back here with a update on my personal railroad. A lot of changes have been made since the last video that I did on this. You guys will see a little bit more power sitting out there. You see everything's undecorated. Had a couple things that I was kind of going back and forth with putting in here, and kind of put some things in and took some things out, and put some things in and took some things out, and just try to really figure out what I wanted at the end of the day for this railroad. And I'm gonna kind of go in depth a little bit more on just what my railroad is. I kind of got some of the ideas kind of figured out of what I wanted it to be, where it's going to run, how it's going to run, and all that stuff. So the paint scheme is still yet to figure out. Once the weather gets better, I'm going to take some junk shells and kind of experiment with some paint on some just junk shells first, try to figure out what colors I like, and then once I get something that I'm 100% happy with, then all of these will be painted. I'm also kind of back and forth on doing even two paint schemes, having an old paint scheme and then having a newer paint scheme on some of the newer locomotives. Not too sure about that yet, but like I said, once the weather gets better and I start actually testing paints and seeing what I like, we'll get that figured out. The railroad now has a name. It is the Pontiac and Detroit, so P&D for short. That's really where the roots of this are coming from. With me growing up around Pontiac and Detroit, really liked watching the railroads in those areas, which consisted a lot of Grand Trunk Western, DT&I, Ann Arbor, seeing some Rock Island, some former Rock Island repatched for DT&I, and stuff like that. Grand Trunk Western, can't remember if I said that. So, and then Central Michigan, around Durand, Michigan. Watched a lot of them, hence the reason I have so many U-boats, because they had some U-boats and I really liked watching those. So, so I'm kind of taking ideas from Central Michigan, DT&I, Ann Arbor, and Grand Trunk and Western. I'm kind of taking all of those railroads and combining ideas and power, and basically coming up with the Pontiac and Detroit Railroad. If you guys want to stay probably even more up to date on the evolution of this railroad and eventually the building of the layout, of course I'll have that stuff here on my YouTube channel, but I do now have a Facebook group started for the Pontiac and Detroit Railroad. If you go on Facebook and you just type in Pontiac, the and symbol, and then Detroit space RR, it'll come up. I literally just started it yesterday, so there's not a whole lot of content on there yet, but that group is going to grow and get a lot of posts on there as I come up with stuff to kind of finish off my power here, and ideas and layout building and all that. So if you're ever out and about on Facebook, I do have a group for this railroad now officially. Like I said, it's really fresh, really brand new, so there's not a lot on there, but there is going to be a lot over the years. It's going to be many years. And same with the series for my personal railroad. I'm basically just going to call this series Personal Railroad, or I might call it by name for the videos. I'll kind of figure that out once I title this video. So I've gotten a lot of stuff in, I'm gonna try to run down the power that I currently have for you guys, and some of the things that I have backstories for already. So in the back row, a little hard to see because it is dark and these are unpainted. I do apologize. Trying to shine my light a little bit better. So in the back row here, we have 4 Athearn Blue Box U28Bs. And I am going to say I'm going to do my best to keep this railroad strictly Athearn Blue Box. There is a couple locomotives that I have from Atlas and Proto 2000 that I would like to have in the roster. And I'm still kind of in my deciding point on that. But for right now, I know that I want, if not all, at least majority Athearn Blue Box, because I kind of want to do something a little more relaxed with this project. I don't want to hold myself to a really strict, not a really high level of detail that I normally do with a lot of the Athearn Genesis and Rapido and Athearn RTR, Kato, Atlas, Intermountain, all that stuff that you guys will see on the channel eventually. You guys will see some of the stuff is really detailed and I'm super picky, and I enjoy that stuff, but at the same time it does get tiring after a while. Just nitpicking over everything, being a rivet counter, blah blah blah. So the overall for this project is I want these locomotives to be to the point where you can tell they're older Athearn Blue Box while at the same time looking good. And basically what that means for the detailing on these is I'm going to have the main state details. They're going to get plows. I'm probably going to do pretty decent pilot detail. I'm going to try to do MU cables, MU hoses, plows, cut levers, and stuff like that. I'm not doing ditch lights on anything. The era that I have put this railroad in is, I'm kind of spanning over a few years, but I'm kind of going from early 80s to late 80s, or mid 80s to late 80s, early 90s. Kind of in that scope of course, when like DT&I and Grand Trunk and Ann Arbor were still a thing. So I'm not running ditch lights on anything, so that's one thing that really takes a lot of stress off of me for trying to drill holes and cut into the frames and get everything wired up. So no ditch lights on anything at all, because we're kind of running that pre-ditch light era. I know there was stuff in the 80s that did have ditch lights, but a lot of stuff did not have ditch lights back in 80s and 90s. So I'm going with that to kind of simplify things. I'm not going to be adding grab irons to these. Whatever's molded on, once it's painted, it'll look fine. Basically, I'll show. I have a couple Ann Arbor GP50s over here that were done by somebody else, and then I kind of went and changed some stuff on those, but they're kind of the same stuff. They have a plow, they have upgraded horn, and then that's about it for details. And they look great. The paint looks nice, so I'm kind of sticking with that as a plan for this. It's just I'm kind of taking a step back in time to when I was a kid, and I just got blue box stuff, put the details that they gave me straight out of the box, and I was happy enough with it. And I kind of miss those days. You know, I mean, I'm not saying I don't love a lot of the highly detailed stuff that I do have. I absolutely love that stuff, and it's beautiful stuff. But I kind of want to take a step back and I wouldn't say enjoy the hobby more. I would just say kind of be a little bit more relaxed with a project, especially a project this big, because everything you see here, I still have more stuff on the way. So I'm far from done with locomotives for this. I'm wanting to get right around 30 locomotives total. And I'm already over 20, so I'm getting there. But if I can be right around that 30 range, I'll be pretty happy. That will seem like a pretty sufficient amount of power, and probably more power than what I honestly need for this railroad. But it'll be nice for once I do have a layout, I can have a lot of power running through different areas, switching out power a lot on different trains or on the same trains, helper units, and stuff like that. So the more power I have for this railroad, the better off it's going to be for my runnability of the railroad. Um, so the railroad, early 80s to early 90s, kind of the overall scope time frame, and then I'm considering it a regional slash short line railroad. It's going to operate within the confines of the state of Michigan, and as per the name, it's going to be running between Detroit and Pontiac and back and forth. So it's very selected area that I've chosen for this. So it's kind of a short line, but at the same time it's kind of a regional because it's only in Michigan. So it's kind of a little bit of both, and that's pretty much the specs that I've set for this railroad, and I'm pretty happy with that. It'll be doing interchanges with Grand Trunk and Western, with Ann Arbor, with DT&I, all of its big sister railroads, pretty much. Since this is, clearly a made-up idea of mine, but I wanted to do something fun with some older locomotives, so that's kind of how this whole project came around. So anyway, back to the power. So yeah, four in the back row there. I got four U28Bs. The row right in front of it, I have there's 1, 2, 3, 4 U30Bs, and then there's I have 1, 2 U30Cs. I have 4 U33Cs, and then 2 28C or U28Cs. And then I currently just have one U33B right there. And then, as you saw back here, a SDP 40. So my so far really my one and only dedicated passenger locomotive. I do plan on doing some passenger with this railroad. So a friend of mine reached out and had this locomotive new in box, so I got that, and I wasn't too sure what I was going to do with it, but then once I had it, I was kind of thinking, and that kind of opened up the opportunity for me to even run a little bit of passenger, which I do have some passenger cars that I could set aside for this railroad as well. So that's a huge option right now with having that locomotive. We just yesterday got in 2 SD45s, new in box, Athearn blue box, undecorated. Another side note right now, yes, I do have the cheap Athearn couplers in there, and everything currently is dummied out and free rolling with powered trucks, but everything's dummied out right now. I'm basically just going through and mocking up my trucks and putting railings on. I've started to put railings on some of the stuff, so I'm just kind of at the mock-up stage right now. So nothing too exciting really. Everything's dummied out. There's no motors. I do have powered I do have geared trucks in here right now with metal wheels. Everything has geared trucks and metal wheels. Everything's going to be powered. Nothing's going to be dummy. I want all the pulling power that I can have. And I have a frame for a SD40-2 with dynamics. That's currently on the way, just the shell, so I have the frame ready to go. And then over here I have a SD40-2 non-dynamic. And then four GP38-2s non-dynamic, but these are a little different now. So these four, and hopefully soon to be five, I have a fifth one that's kind of almost ready to go if I can get the parts for it. GP38-2s, and I'll pull one up here. So all these are the same, and they're way different from your typical GP38-2. And I can even, let's see here, I'll grab from over here. I think my DT&I one's kind of mocked up right now. This was another one that I recently got, just a shell. Got a frame on it. Custom painted by somebody. They did a great job. I got it as just the shell, no parts, so I got the railings, some of the light and number board stuff in there. I got powered trucks on there. It's dummied out right now till I get a motor in it, and then a new frame. So typical GP38-2 with the Bloomberg B style trucks, where it has the brake pads on both sides of the wheels, 2 brake cylinders, 1 brake cylinder per wheel. The short fuel tank. So pretty much just a baseline GP38-2. And then I'll show you what's different with these ones. So these are no longer GP38-2s. I have kind of come up with a new classification for these. See if I can get my light to kind of cooperate here. And just keep in mind all the GP38s that are out there are exactly like this one, so I can just show you one. These are what I'm calling GP38Ls. It's a GP38L. And the backstory for the P&D with these is they were purchased special for the needs of the railroad. They were non-dynamic to save some money. Kind of basically the same story as a lot of Grand Trunk stuff. But we have a large fuel tank like on a GP40 or a GP50 or GP60. So it's got a full-size fuel tank, and then it has the AAR-B Alco trucks, those low-profile truck frames that you don't normally see on a bigger locomotive like this. And the backstory for those is all of these U-boats back here, all the 4-axle U-boats have these AAR-B Alco trucks. And so my story for these is that the railroad purchased the locomotives with the addition of the larger fuel tank, and then to save money did the truck trade-in program, which was a real thing back in the day for railroads that bought newer locomotives to save some money, keep trucks from their older locomotives that they were retiring, and put them on the newer locomotives that's replacing them, if that makes sense to you. Hopefully I explained that somewhat decent. So that's basically the story of these is they received their trucks from retired U-boats in the fleet to help the P&D on the overall costs, with having the large fuel tank being a kind of an extra price, but then having them be non-dynamic, so kind of a give and take for the purchase price of these locomotives. of course, I'm making all this up, so don't don't try to fact check any of this because there's zero GP38s like this out there. There might be some with big tanks. I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember if I've ever seen a GP38-2 with a big tank. Um, I'm not saying they are out there, but I'm not saying they aren't. I just can't remember everything that I've seen throughout my life if I've seen that. But yeah, so just kind of these locomotives are going to be kind of the uh, more unique power of the railroad, the GP38L, and the L. I was trying to figure out what that would stand for, and it could stand for two things. It could stand for long distance runs, since it has a bigger fuel tank, they can run a longer distance, or the low profile of the Alco trucks. So I'm not really going to put too much uh, stress on myself for what the L stands for. It can stand for whatever you guys want it to stand for. But these are the Pontiac and Detroit GP38L. Really cool locomotive. I love how the Alco trucks look on a bigger locomotive like this. So that's kind of the first round of backstories. I'm kind of going off of everything else would have been bought new, and nothing would be X, L&N or X Burlington Northern. I'm early enough in my years where this stuff would have still been somewhat new. If I do try to figure out a kind of a predecessor railroad for this, I'll kind of have to come up with a lot of backstories for some of these units. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to do that, but other than these and clearly the SD45s and SDP40 would have been bought new. SD40-2s would have been bought new, and then these would be bought new with the truck trade-in program and the large fuel tank. So it's kind of a neat piece. I really like it. I kind of wanted seems like a lot of people that have their own railroad kind of have some special power, something with unique traits to it. So that's going to be my kind of unique trait, is that I'm running these GP38 Ls with different trucks, different tanks. So that's about it for that. That's all the power that I have right now. I am looking into trying to source some more stuff. Of course, I am looking for everything non or undecorated, just because that'll help me out for paint. I don't have to spend time stripping paint and potentially ruining the plastic and all that. I did acquire a new Missouri Pacific GP38-2, so now I have two Missouri Pacific locomotives. So that'll kind of be thrown in on the mix on some run-through power on the layout. We have also the Duluth, Winnipeg, and Pacific, so the DP or the DWP. Really close to my my name. I kind of had a name picked out, and it was really close to the initials of DWP, so I kind of had to rethink my name. But I'm pretty happy with the name. I really like it. It's simple. It's a two-name road. It's not it's a personally owned railroad, so it's not a lease. It's not going to have the X prefix in the name. I didn't want that because I did do a leasing company, a fake leasing company before, for just some throw in power on some trains, and it was cool. But at the same time, it's like, man, I really wish I would have done my own railroad. So now I'm kind of taking it back and really doing my own thing with this, and pretty excited. So hopefully you guys are, some of you big time modelers out there that like a lot of custom stuff, hopefully you guys are excited to see some updates on the Pontiac and Detroit Railroad, And like I said, you can go on Facebook and join my group, uh, Pontiac and Detroit RR. Um, it's an open group. I don't have any questions on there. If if I see weirdos or anything on there, I'll kick them out. But I'm just kind of keeping it a loose and open group for anyone who wants to join. No hard questions or anything. If you like railroading, feel free to join it. If you want to see updates on this and you don't always have time to watch YouTube videos or whatever, that'll be another option for this railroad to be shown. So that's about it for this video. Other than that, I still got all these parts around. I'm selecting motors and have some motors paneled up and ready to go. Have another GP38 shell that's hopefully going to be the 5th GP38L if I can get some of the parts together for it. And that's about it, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the kind of a big update on the personal railroad here. We have a name, we have a time frame, we have more power, we have some backstory starting to happen. So I'm really trying to get all the information and details together for this railroad, and really start to solidify it as a thing, and not just an idea that I have that I may or may not do. This is something that's officially happening now, so it's really exciting. And if you guys have any ideas or any comments, feel free to throw them on the video. I love hearing from you guys. If you guys want to join the Facebook page and talk on there, that's cool too. I check that quite a bit now that it's up and going. And like I said, there's not much on there, but I will be posting more as the railroad progresses. And then, of course, eventually when I finally get around to building the layout for my Michigan layout, so all that's going to really come together. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, take care.